with keeping on moving with trying to get something done a little bit every couple days for the channel. Thought I would try something new. I always see people on Facebook say, slow your trains down, and people are proud. They're running their trains or zipping around the track, and so many people say, it doesn't look prototypical. It looks fake. Slow them down. Well, rule number one of your own train layout, run what you want, how you want. It's your layout. But still, let's just not play that card for a second, right? Well, if somebody tells me to slow my train down, I don't know how to slow to make it. It's a 1/60th train. It's small. To me, it's run around the track might look fine, but it may not. So I started Googling, got me down the rabbit hole of creating a train speedometer. So I got there. A lot of people use Arduinos or a Mega. Well, I got this little guy here, this Seed Studio, and it's just sitting still. I was originally going to use it for an RC car for when you're driving and it gets dark, headlights come on, when you turn left turn signals will come on, you hit the brakes, whatever. Well, that already exists, so no need to reinvent the wheel. There's no cheap solution out there. There's something on eBay for $400 for one. But of course, it's a DIY thing, so why not do it ourselves? All right, so looking at this little guy. I do have videos after this, so that do show it in use. Let's come down here. The beauty with this little guy, just to go over it, which has features we're not going to use, is 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. I was able to set this up as a temperature humidity sensor that I could access a web page off of it via Wi-Fi. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, it's a little guy. This is a USB-C plug to give you an idea how small it is. In the videos, I do put my hand there. You'll see it. It's pretty much like say your pointer finger, standard hand type guy. I'm not a big guy. It's like the tip of my finger up to that first knuckle. So it's pretty small. All right, but let's come down. So looking at this, you got a reset button, a boot button. Here's the Wi-Fi, USB-C, as I said, charge LED. Now, I am not running it off a battery at this moment, and when I go to use it, I most likely will not. But if you wanted to, you flip it over, you can solder leads on it for a battery, and you can charge it, so like a LiPo or something. Here's where we're at, okay? I had to, when I first started doing, you'll see in the video, I'll show you, Copilot was horrible for me. I asked it to do a generic IDE code, Android Studio code, for a Seed Studio ESP32C3, where it will show when an IR sensor is triggered. And you'll see the issue I had in that. The code just didn't work. As soon as I hooked up the output pin, it shorted high. But look at this guy, right? I'm new to this, and you have D0 to D10. Cool, right? So that makes sense. You have digital pins. But you also have analog pins, SDA, SCL. Connected my screen to those two. And of course, you got GPIOs, read, transmit. But now what I ended up doing, I'll tell you, one of the first things I did was I was trying to use 5 volts, right, with the sensor. And the infrared sensor didn't like it. When I was Googling it and bouncing around, I learned they only like 3.3 volts. So I switched to 3.3, and they still work the same as if they're on 5, but that's where they're supposed to be. And when I got my screen in, my screen was too dim. I had it on the 3.3 volts. I had to utilize the 5 volt as well for that. So the pins I used are the 5 volt for the screen, ground, obviously, for everything, 3.3 volt for the IR sensors, SDA, SCL for the screen. So the screen took 5 volts ground, SDA, and SCL. The IR sensors took 3.3 volts ground, and an output pin. So the output pins I chose were simple, D0, D1. They're digital. So with these two, it worked. Now, I could, in theory, if I wanted to, use D3 and D6 for another set, because the IR sensors, you need 2 to trigger. So I could do another set there. That makes 2. 7, 8 for 3, 9, and 10 for 4. What does that mean? I could theoretically have 4 separate train lines where I can do speed. Okay? And then I took it a step further. While I was messing around with this, I was like, what if I automate a train, right? Okay, you know, use JMRI, use whatever you want, and you got a train doing outer loop. It's doing 30 miles an hour scale speed, but it comes up to a curve, and you have the automation slow it down to like 10, and it takes the turn, and it comes out of it, and it's a long straightaway, and you do scale 50 miles an hour, and then there's another turn, and you slow it back down to 10. Yeah, that's great, right? But what if you had a screen in front of you that would also tell you that, you know, if you had 4, you could do a 4 screen, and it could say outer loop or coal run or whatever, but then it would constantly show the speed. So I was like, well, how do I do that? So I took another set of sensors, and the other set of sensors, I connected the output pins to the same exact digital pins, and it worked. So it was awesome. So I don't know what I'm going to do for 3D printing the case for the screen. I don't know what else I'm going to 3D print or how I'm going to mount the infrared sensors. I am going to cut them off the boards and run wires to extend them, but just want to give a little update, something pretty cool. Check it out. Let's do this. I will show you what I use. Let's go to Amazon. I got this Wi-Fi board coming, so I can shut it down some, make it smaller. I'll just have the Mega and then the EX, dcc-ex shield, and I won't have the Wi-Fi board on top of it. But, as I said, the first thing you need is ESP32C3. $10, okay? Let's do that. All right, this is doing some CAD design for truck pins. Let's do new tab, right? ESP32C3 is $9.90 as of 2/13/26 at 12. I'm on lunch. I gotta get this done quick. All right, yes. Okay, so we're at $10 for that, right? You don't need the jumper wires. You don't need a breadboard. If you followed it, you could just solder wires right to it. Hopefully you have a soldering iron and solder. I'm not going to put that on this list. So you have this. And then the first thing I wanted was IR sensor for Arduino. Here's the one I bought. So they have a model number. I will just take 20 pieces point sensor. Yeah, we'll just take that. This was $9. Okay. And for simple things, yeah, you got tax and stuff. I'm not going to do tax. I'm just going to roll that to 10. All right. Now, this would work. If you got SQL code, SQL, wow, I'm just doing SQL code for work. If you have the Arduino code, you could stop here. You don't need anything else. The LC 1602, I think it is. All right, just do 16 by 2 LCD. Here are the screens. And once again, I bought a 10-pack because it was just cheaper. When I say cheaper, yeah, you can get 2 for 10, 2 for 11. But when you look at it, make sure you get the one with the module, so that way you don't need to connect to every single little pin. Okay, so we'll come down here to the 10 pack, 10 pieces, LCD 1602. Okay, I'll just go up to display. Now we will take a quick look at something. And this was 22. Let's do this. And we will put the 9 up front. And the 10 up front. Right there, right? So, yes, it costs more money. You end up with extra parts that you really don't need. But as I said, with the infrareds, you can do, with this, you need 2. So you could do 10 separate mile per hours. And as I mentioned, with the ESP32, you can do 4. So right off the bat, you can do, say, the front and the back. Well, that's using 8. That's using 8. And then you can keep going and adding where you want. Now, you can use an Arduino Nano, Uno, or a Mega, and have more digital output pins, and you can do more. I don't know how you do more screens because, as I said, you need the SDA and SCL pins. Okay, so we have this. Now, if you want to do 4, what we would need is 4-row LCD. Look at that. Okay, now these are going to get more expensive. You know, 20 by 4 it looks. $10. Let's see. What was up here? So 3 for 16. 7 is 5. 6 would be 18. So like $5.50 a piece. That's not bad. You could go with something like that. And like I said, it could be coal run, engine house, you know, whatever. You know, you can make them whatever you want. So there's 4, 2. Try to find a bulk pack. 4, 6 and 4. That's $6 a piece. That's not really cheaper. Like I said, we gotta make sure that's there. So that 3 pack did have them. Okay, and let's take a look at why I said it, but I really didn't show you. So without it, well, first of all, you can adjust the contrast. That's the first thing. And okay, so let's look at one without one. It'll be easier for me to show you. I don't know. These all might have it. It says not include. I2C not included. So let's see. There we go. Now I can show you. So you would literally need to connect every one of those pins to an Arduino, whatever. So that's a lot of pins. 16 wires. Where with that little module, it's only 4. SDA, SCL, VCC, and ground. So definitely go with that. But if I was buying today, that one wasn't cheaper. I might go with that 3 pack. 6, 5 times 3. This comes with the extra wires if you need them. All right. So I probably would go with that. Just put that here. Oh, and this comes with the jumper wires as well. So let's do this so we know 3-piece. And what we will do as well is 10-piece LCD display, 2-row. Okay. Optional. $17. 4-row screen. And I don't know what to look up. Small LCD. Small LCD Arduino. There we go. Check these little guys out. 5 pieces for 15 bucks. That's $3 a piece. I don't know what you need. This one's overall rated. That's 3 a piece. That's 3 a piece. All right, let's take a look. What we got here? So this guy is really small. Less than an inch. So you could put this on. So my thought is I'm going to mount my speed up by my control station. But you could put these little guys, 3D print a case, put them down on the layout somewhere. All right. Yeah, see how small that is? Right there. Definitely, that's the breadboard. So, some interesting things you can do for screens. This one was, it looks like 3-row. Does it say high res, minimum visible, power supply 3.5 volts? Yeah, you can see timer alarm would be 1, then the time, and then the date. So 3 of those, I'd say 3-row. 2 rows of yellow, 6 rows of blue. I don't know what that means. But anyway, so check it out. All right, so that's all I'm going to say for this part. And now let's get on to the demos and other things.